Types of volcanoes. Most people have never seen a real volcano, but have learned about them through movies or books. So when most people think of a volcano, they usually conjure up the Hollywood version. A huge, menacing, conical mountain that explodes and spews out masses of lava which falls on rampaging dinosaurs, screaming cave people, or fleeing mobs of betogged Romans, depending on their favorite volcano disaster movie. While those types of volcanoes do indeed exist, they represent only one species in a veritable zoo of volcanoes, shapes, and sizes. So this paragraph does nothing to tell you about this composite volcano over here. Let's look at the second paragraph. Some types of volcanoes are easily recognizable and some are not. The Hollywood types are easily recognized. Many are located in populated areas and have well-known names: Vesuvius, Krakatoa, Fujiyama, and Mount St. Helens. These volcanoes are typically tens of miles across and 10,000 or more feet in height. That tells you how big they are. As illustrated in the figure above, right here, they have moderately steep sides and sometimes have small craters in their summits. That tells you about their shape. See the side here? It's steep, but not very steep. That's why it's moderately steep. Volcanologists call these strato or composite volcanoes because they consist of layers of solid lava flows mixed with layers of sand or gravel-like volcanic rock called cinders or volcanic ash. There are the cinders, all the dark parts, and the red-orange parts are the lava flows. That tells you how they're formed. That paragraph right there is what you need for a composite volcano. Third paragraph. Another easily recognized type of volcano, seen at right, is the cinder cone. As you might expect from the name, these volcanoes consist almost entirely of loose, grainy cinders and almost no lava. There it is right there, cinders. That tells you how it's formed. They are small volcanoes, usually only about a mile across and up to about 1,000 feet high. That gives you the size. They have very steep sides and usually have a small crater on top. There's the shape. Right there you've got it all. A third easily recognized volcano may be familiar to you from news reports from Hawaii, the Shield volcano. This type of volcano can be hundreds of miles across and many tens of thousands of feet high. There's the size. The individual islands of the state of Hawaii are simply large shield volcanoes. Mauna Loa, a shield volcano on the big island of Hawaii, is the largest single mountain in the world, rising over 30,000 feet above the ocean floor and reaching almost 100 miles across at its base. There's a size for a big volcano. Shield volcanoes have low slopes and consist almost entirely of frozen lavas. That sentence has two bits of information. The low slopes tells you the shape, and entirely of frozen lava flows tells you how it's made. They almost always have large craters at their summits. Now the other two on page 2. Two important types of volcano that are difficult to recognize, especially when they are very large. Two important types of volcanoes are difficult to recognize, especially when they are very large. Okay, that makes more sense. The first of these is the giant caldera. See left. Here's the caldera image. Calderas, which are simply circular depressions, that tells you how it's formed, are found on summits of many volcanoes. It's a circular depression on the summit of a volcano. That's the top. See here how it crumbled in? Giant calderas are the largest of these. Huge craters up to many tens of miles across. There's some size. Giant calderas form by collapse in gigantic eruptions that spew volcanic rocks out hundreds or even 1,000 miles in all directions. Sometimes the calderas are so filled with lava and volcanic ash that there is no recognizable depression at all. So you can write how they could be filled with lava and volcanic ash so you don't see the depression. These can only be found by carefully locating the big fractures or faults in the ground that mark the edges of the caldera. One such caldera nearly fills Yellowstone National Park. In other cases, the edges of the caldera remain as large cliffs or ridges surrounding the central depression. However, the depression is so large that a person standing in the middle of it could hardly see the edges and would only recognize them if they were pointed out. These giant calderas can best be seen in images taken from space, like the one of the Valles caldera in New Mexico, below left. And here's the fissure. The second type of volcano, which is difficult to recognize either from the ground or from space, is the fissure eruption, shown here. See how flat it is? In this type, there is no central crater at all. That's an important thing to write. Instead, giant cracks open in the ground and expel vast quantities of lava that spread far and wide to form huge pools that cover almost everything around. That's how it's formed. Boom, you got two things right there. When these pools of lava cool and solidify, the surface remains mostly flat. There's your shape. Since the source cracks are usually buried, there is often nothing volcano-like to see, only a flat plain. The fissure eruption shown at the above right was at Los Pilas volcano in Nicaragua in 1952. And there you have volcano types.